And so I think we may take a look at how the student housing industry can or should embrace AI. It's not a panacea, but there are certainly some things that it could probably help.
Welcome to the Student Housing Insight Podcast, where we are putting you in touch with the people who bring student housing to life. I'm your host, Wesley Dees, and I'm also the owner of Providential Student Housing. Providential Student Housing is a consulting firm serving the student housing industry. We help investors, developers, lenders with any due diligence needs they have when exploring a market or preparing for an acquisition. We also provide asset management services to a select group of clients. And last but not least, we also consult with companies who are looking to service the student housing industry with a product or a service to make sure that product or service is truly meeting the needs of the industry. So if you have any of those needs, please reach out to us at providentialstudenthousing.com. Well, guys, I'm recording this on March 6th, which means we are less than a month away from the largest student housing conference on the globe, and that is the annual Interface Student Housing Conference in Austin, Texas. This is the 15th year of the conference. Each year it gets bigger and better, and this year the conference is April 3rd through 5th, and once again it's going to be at the JW Marriott. Love the folks over at the JW. It's been a great venue for the past several years. And as tradition, because we've now done this for 5 years in a row, this episode is our sneak peek at what is on tap for this year's conference. A couple weeks ago, I got to sit down with Rich Kelley of Student Housing Business Magazine, which is the sibling company of Interface Conference Group under the France Media umbrella. But we sat down to talk about the agenda and speakers and everything you can expect at this year's conference. So we'll get to that interview in just a moment. But quickly, I want to tell you about a couple of things we're doing at Student Housing Insight to help you get prepared for the conference and be able to make the most of it. Number one, we will be doing a luncheon and a live podcast on the first day of the conference before the first session even begins. We've done this in the past, and I've had a ton of fun doing it. This is one of the few times each year that all of the industry leaders can get together under one roof. And I like to take advantage of that get folks together to discuss the status of the industry, and we just have a fun time doing that. So this year's podcast guests are going to include Dan Shope of Campus Life and Style, Jessica Dellis of Yugo, Brian Shelingoski of Graystar, Jen Cassidy of Cardinal Group, Aaron Bailey of Dinnerstein Companies, and Brandon Smith of the Tailwind Group. And of course, you'll be able to hear that conversation a week or so after the event. But if you're going and you work for a management company or a development company, you are invited to join us. It's going to be a great time, so I hope you can make it. This will be taking place at the JW. It's going to be on the same floor as the registration table for the conference, and we're providing a plated lunch. And if you've been to this conference before, you know that the JW never disappoints with their catering. So if you're going to be down there, I would love for you to be able to make it, but please email me ASAP, as I think we've only got about 20 of those seats left, and this probably won't come out till the 9th or 10th. So make sure that you email me as quick as possible, and if we're out, I'll let you know. Number two, we are producing a series on our YouTube channel that is called Look Who's Going to Austin. So each episode of this series is highlighting a company or an individual who's going to be at the conference and looking to network, or maybe they're making an announcement about a new service or a product that they're going to be showcasing at Interface. So be on the lookout for that. Of course, we'll be posting those videos to LinkedIn as well. So make sure you follow us at LinkedIn. Make sure you follow me at LinkedIn as well. Last but not least, I love meeting the listeners of this podcast. And if you and I have never met, I would love to meet with you at the conference and, just chat about how this platform and the podcast can help you and your company, If there are topics that you want us to cover, be it in the podcast or on our monthly webinar, which is called Shop Talk, I'd love to get 15 minutes with you to discuss. So just email me at that same email address, and I'll send you a calendar link for us to schedule some time. All right, guys, here's that interview with Rich Kelley. Rich, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Wes. It's good to be back.
Well, this is, I don't know, was this fifth year we've done this in a row? Yeah, it's just becoming routine now. It's like Thanksgiving.
It's one of my favorite days of the year, Wes, when I get to talk to you like this.
Well, hey, we are talking about the 15th annual interface. Does it feel like it's been 15 years for you?
It depends on the day. Some days it feels like 10, some days it feels like 20.
Yeah. Well, and it's, by the way, have you guys ever done this outside of Austin? I don't think so.
Actually, the very first year, the very first Interface Student Housing was held at the Union League in Philadelphia.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think of maybe one year, it might have been in Chicago early on. But otherwise, we've kind of bounced around a couple different places in Austin, but we found a very nice home at the JW.
I love the hotel. I love being in Austin. Last year there were some protests and stuff going on at the Capitol, which was unique to see. But there's always stuff to do in Austin that makes not just the conference great, but being able to do things outside of the conference. And then, of course, we've got calculated it up the other day. I think it was 9 of the top 25 are of the top 25 managers are in Texas. And then, of course, several developers and everybody else. So it's great to not only be able to meet with the folks that come to the conference, but it's easy to also, if there's somebody that isn't going to the conference that someone needs to meet, it's great to be able to go over to their office or spend an extra day in Texas and go find those folks. So, yeah, I hope you guys never move it out of Austin.
It's a pretty good nexus point when you think about the student housing industry. Texas certainly is a state. And if you had to drill down, I think Austin of the major cities would be the place. So yeah, there's a reason we're there.
Yeah. Well, hey, I wanted to jump into obviously talking about interface, but LeaseCon was fantastic this year. Thanks for bringing that to Charlotte. Any, now that you've been several weeks kind of removed from it, any thoughts that you've had on how that went?
LeaseCon was a blast. It was really a lot of fun. It's a really fun event to program because you get to cover some really interesting topics, go a little more in depth maybe, because the topic as a whole of leasing and marketing in turn is the sole focus. So it really worked out great. We enjoyed being in your home city of Charlotte. We very well may go back. We're talking to some of the hotels there now. But yeah, turnout was great. Everybody was in a good mood. I guess that certainly helped by the fact that the industry is doing so well from a leasing and marketing perspective. But it was a lot of fun. And I think it created a lot of nice tailwinds for interface student housing too.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right with that. Let's talk about something that was announced at LeaseCon. We also talked about on Shop Talk this month. You guys, along with University Furnishings and W Collective, are actually doing a scholarship for basically an emerging woman leader within the industry. And I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but I will definitely make sure that we put a link to that information in the show notes.
So W Collective now has been around for a couple of years. I think we hopefully played a small part in helping grow awareness and the growth of the organization 2 years ago when we had a panel right before the event started, right before our roundtables that first day, which was great. And then last year we did a panel at around the similar time, right before the roundtables. And I must say, might be one of the only panels, if not the only panel in my career, where I saw the audience stand up and give a standing ovation to the panelists. It was really moving. It was remarkable on a lot of different levels. And then we had the W Collective with us again at LeaseCon, as you referenced. And then this year, the W Collective session will be during the main programming of the event, which I think is great and very apropos. And the idea was to, driven by the folks at W Collective, to offer a kind of scholarship to attend the event, we were more than happy to oblige with that. Again, that organization has just already done a lot of great work. I see even more accomplishments and success in their future. And we've enjoyed every minute we've had working with them and look forward to continuing to try to be the best partner we can for the W Collective and for everyone in the industry.
No, yeah, exactly. I think it's great. It was great to see it last year. The first year, I felt like an outsider because I knew it was a women's thing. I'm not a woman, so it just didn't make any sense. But I could tell that there was a lot of energy in that room when I walked by it. And then, of course, last year, I had some folks say, "Hey, you really got to come see this," and it was same thing. I think it's the first time I've seen a standing ovation at any industry conference. So that was fantastic to see, and love seeing the growth of those individuals that have founded it, because they're kind of the younger millennial generation. And it's great to see them stepping up and taking such an important role. So, and again, we'll put that, the scholarship is great. They've got airfare included, hotel room. I mean, it's really all expenses paid for the most part. And it's a fantastic opportunity for, somebody out there that wants to see what I love about Interface, because from an operations standpoint, there's not a whole lot that certainly a veteran like myself is necessarily going to learn, again, from an operations standpoint, but from a global industry. Hey, this is what's really pushing and impacting what's happening from a business standpoint. It was Interface that gave that perspective to me. And I think it's important that, and I always tell everybody, it's at the site level that are thinking about moving into a regional and maybe eventually executive role. You've got to get there at least once, if not every couple of years, at least to try to try to understand and get that perspective of what all's really pushing on our industry. And that's fantastic for it. So can't wait to find out who the lucky winner is.
Me too. And, it's funny you mentioned like the benefits of going to an event. I think this year, the industry finds itself in a pretty interesting kind of juxtaposition where leasing and rental rates and everything continue to be going great guns. Everyone's going to have, I think, a very robust opening next fall in terms of occupancy and rental rate, or, certainly obviously there's always some exception, certain markets, certain properties, but by and large, industry is performing just so well. But the other side of the industry, investment, development, financing, is I don't want to say ground to a halt, but it's very difficult right now because of the interest rate environment. What's going on in the macro economy seems to be up to anyone's debate. There seem to be some good signs, and you see some negative signs, but the Fed just said, looks like the rate hikes are going to continue. Hopefully the percentage of the rate hike will be lower than what was initially feared. But it's interesting. The bid-ask gap, how does it get closed? When do we get pricing certainty? How does a developer feel comfortable moving forward? And more importantly, I guess, how do they find the financing to move forward? So, these are going to be some of the interesting things that will be talked about at the event. Is when does the investment development finance side kind of get back to normal? And on leasing and rental rates, how long can this great news continue?
Yeah, that's on everybody's mind right now for sure. Well, hey, let's jump into what's on tap for this year. I know I've been getting the emails for the Innovator Awards deadline that's coming up, and I know you got kind of an announcement there on a new category. And also, just for those that may not have been paying attention, there was a new submission process this year that I think a lot of people, if they don't know, they'll certainly appreciate it, and hopefully that will. They haven't applied for this year, maybe they'll pay a little bit more attention to for next year. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
We tried to streamline the entry process a little bit. It used to be we were requiring, PDFs to explain this to that. We tried to make it more of a narrative. I hope people paid attention this year. By the time I think this conversation airs, our deadline will have closed because it's on the 15th. But pay attention for next year. We're trying to make it simpler for everybody out there. And yes, we did add one new category this year. I thought this would be kind of a fun category to add, and it's best property name. So we certainly see some interesting ones out there in the industry, and we're encouraging everyone to, give us their best shot with their best project name.
Yeah. Talk about the evolution of an industry. And, when I got started, everything was called Campus Edge, University Commons. And, that was, there was no real original. And now it's kind of one of those things. It's like, what's more innovative, the new church name, that's come up, or the new student housing property that's coming up. So that's fantastic. I can't wait to see. I bet you there's going to be people that are they're going to come up with something that they know they're going to submit for the Innovator Award, and they'll name it solely because of that.
It's the power of the innovators, Wes. It has immense sway out there. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But I am intrigued to see what the creative folks in the student housing space come up with in terms of some submittals for us.
Well, fantastic. And is that going to be, is that awarded to the ownership group, the management group, the design architecture group?
It would probably go to, I guess, the ownership group. Sometimes it's submitted by the management group, but usually we would defer to have it be to the ownership group.
Yeah, I know some of the marketing firms like the Agency 53s and Poetics, I know they kind of go through a process of, as they're working with a client, of understanding their market, they give out some suggestions on names. So it'll be interesting to see how those groups will adjust to that too. Well, hey, let's talk about the event itself. It's 3 days. We've got it in April, back in April this year. Last year it was in May. And so I think everybody is happy to get to Austin a little bit earlier before the heat really turns up. But yeah, give us the outline of the 3 days.
Yeah, so we're back to being the same week as the Masters. We've gotten away from that for a couple of years, but now we're back. But fortunately, we're the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so we won't conflict with anyone who's heading to Augusta in the latter part of the week. But yes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this year, not necessarily always our preferred timing, but we are at the mercy of the hotel. So I can tell you we have a ton of rooms booked on the Sunday night. So I think a lot of people are pulling into town Sunday afternoon, certainly Sunday evening, probably doing something Sunday night, and also ready to be on the ground to do meetings and whatnot on Monday. Yeah. So Monday afternoon, we will have our roundtables, opening cocktail reception, full day Tuesday, half day Wednesday. As we do every year, we save some of our best sessions for Wednesday. So really encourage people, don't plan on leaving until, if you're driving, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and if you're flying, book a 1 o'clock or a 2 o'clock or a 3 o'clock flight so you can partake of the sessions and the speakers on Wednesday morning. Our early bird attendance rate just ended 2 days ago. We are tracking pretty much right on with our attendance last year. Last year's attendance was our highest ever. So that's a very positive sign from an attendance standpoint. The hotel room block at the JW, for better or for worse, is now sold out. It's great if you have a room. It's not great if you don't have a room. But we do have a room block at the Hyatt Place, which is literally next door. Nice hotel. So that's available, and we have a good number of rooms under that block, so we should be able to accommodate most folks there. Overall, we're going to try to introduce a few new elements. We can talk about that, but I think the main cores are always, what's going on from investment development and finance and what's going on in leasing management and operations, and plenty of interesting conversational fodder on both fronts.
Yeah, one thing that we just got finished with the February shop talk yesterday, and Casey Schaefer from CBRE was there, and he just come out of the NMHC annual conference or whatever that was in Vegas last week. And one of the things we talked about on the prelim call was and I'd love to get your insight on this too, because I know you guys obviously are doing a lot of things on the conventional side, but the rate increases have kind of stalled out there. And then of course with student housing, it always takes us kind of another cycle to catch up to what's going on from a conventional standpoint. And so I imagine that's going to be part of the discussion when we start talking about interest rates and rental rates. Any feedback on things you've heard from that standpoint?
Obviously, the rents for the next academic year are going to be very robust and a lot of growth. I know some firms were wondering, geez, should we not push the absolute max so we still have some room for the next year? These are all first world problems to have. So let's be happy that we're raising rents at all. We all have envisioned in some years it doesn't work like that. On the conventional side, yes, things have tapered down a little bit, but they're still doing just fine, and they're still getting rental rate growth. And there have been, frankly, a ton of new units added in the national new development stock on the conventional side in 2022. I think it might have been the highest year ever, or certainly in a long, long time. So, that's going to have an impact. That's going to mean that there's more availability, and therefore maybe rents don't rise quite as much. But from the big picture standpoint, that's probably a good thing for society and all around, actually.
Great. So first day, I'm assuming we're going to be doing the roundtables that evening.
Yes, we'll have a whole wide variety of roundtables. We will have a great opening cocktail reception. Then I'm sure everyone will go out and do some dinners and things like that. We'll come back on Tuesday morning with the power panel.
Great. And I'm sure Peter Katz is going to be the moderator again. Have you got a lineup that you can share yet on who the power panel is going to be?
Yeah, it's still a little bit of a state of flux, but I think we'll have Mr. Bayless up there. We will have Mr. Wes Rogers present. Very happy to have Rob Bronstein from the Scion Group back this year. Tim Bradley, Mark Lifshin. So we've got a great group put together.
Oh, great! Tell me about the rest of Tuesday. Anything special that we need to make sure we've got on our calendars?
Just a lot of great panel discussions that we'll have. Obviously, we also have a hour during the day to visit with our exhibitors. Very pleased and happy to announce that our exhibit hall is once again sold out. So we have a lot of great vendors and service providers who offer every owner and manager out there a lot of great ways to more efficiently and profitably run their business. So would encourage everyone to spend some time in the exhibit hall. And then, of course, the Innovator Awards reception that night, which is always a highlight of the event. Yeah,
I love going to that. Get back really quick to the exhibitors. The past couple of years, I don't know if it was because of COVID or exactly what it was, but you guys have, started putting some of the exhibitors in the hallways between the two floors, and which I really like that because I'm able to kind of more casual conversation of walking by, meet with those folks. Is that something again that you're doing this year, or is it all back in the exhibit hall?
Yeah, frankly, that's something that's driven by demand. We sell out the exhibit hall, and we still have a number of firms that really would like to have some kind of face-to-face presence at the event. So we're able to have that down on the third floor. And the third floor gets a lot of traction these days because we do use 2 rooms down there for our sessions. There are a lot of the private meeting rooms that are down there. So people are traversing between the third and the fourth floor quite a bit. So yes, we will have those tabletop exhibits again, and I expect we'll have a full roster there.
Great. So there is still some room for that if folks want to.
There is, at least as of this taping.
Oh, great. Yeah. If you're an exhibitor listening to this or a vendor listening to this, yeah, those are, like I said, I almost prefer that more so than the exhibitor hall, just because I can just come out of one of the panels and immediately meet with someone. As with the exhibitor hall, I'm really kind of focused in on who all I've got to meet on the way. And so that I think it's a great opportunity for vendors. Speaking of vendors, let's talk about sponsors for a little bit. I still want to go back and talk about the last day, but anything with sponsors this year that you want to pay special attention to?
Well, I'd like to thank all of the great industry leading firms who are aligned with the event. We are humbled that so many firms want to be part of our event and see the value of having their logos in our promotions and marketing and having their people at the event. We have a great group of, I guess you'd call them new sponsors, people that haven't been involved in the event in the past. And certainly, the overwhelming majority are firms that we feel very fortunate and thankful to be able to work with most every year. So it's a who's who of the space, the leading companies in the space, and we're beyond appreciative of everybody's involvement and support.
Yeah. I really like how they come together to make it even a better event. I know, University Furnishings, and I guess they're still doing that. They're providing a lot of the furniture in the networking area. And it seems like everybody comes together to, really try to amp it up for this event. So that's fantastic. So let's talk about Wednesday. Typically you see a lot of folks that have gone to some of the events the night before and they don't show up to stuff the next day. What are they going to be missing this year, Rich?
They should get to bed just maybe even 20 minutes earlier, and we'll start the programming 20 minutes later. How's that? So you've just made up 40 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll probably have about 10 sessions on Wednesday morning spread out over 3 groupings. And they're really some of our most unique and interesting discussions that we have over the event. It definitely would encourage folks. It's worth getting up and being there. You'll learn a lot and meet some great people as well. So, go out and have some fun on Tuesday night. Just don't have too much fun.
Yeah, I've always liked what's happening on that last day because it's the time when there's, whatever kind of a new subject is or, something that's may have it may have reemerged, a discussion on international students or whatever. It's typically where you guys park that. And it's some really good information. I would say for the folks that are on the operations side, that is definitely the day you want to pay attention to.
We're going to do a panel this year kind of focused for the first time on like the resident experience. How one of the things that came up at LeaseCon and has just comes up in conversations is, all right, so owners and operators are really raising rents. That's great. But when you raise rents, you also raise expectations, both on the part of the student resident and also equally, if not more importantly, on the part of their parents. So how do you meet that level of higher expectation? Well, you got to have the best resident experience you can. And we hear a lot of talk about that in the industry. And I think everyone's very sincere about it. But I think there are probably some firms that do it better than others. So we're going to have a panel on that and talk about how you really maximize your residents' experience. Another new thing that's been obviously very much in the news the first 6 weeks here of 2023 is AI with the whole chat box. And you're reading stories about that in the mainstream press every day. And so I think we may take a look at how the student housing industry can or should embrace AI. It's not a panacea, but there are certainly some things that it could probably help on many levels, both, again, touching on that resident experience, but even on the investment and development worlds as well, how contracts are done, how brokers do their job. So a lot of interesting permutations to that.
I can't wait to jump in on and hear that conversation. Speaking of AI, have you done the self-portrait AI thing yet?
I haven't, but that's going to be a family activity on Sunday night after the Super Bowl. No, just kidding. No, I think we all in society are going to be learning some new things about AI this year, and it's going to be really interesting a year from now to see how it's become more enmeshed in society and day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, it's exciting because for me, it's like, oh, I'm finally going to get to see these kind of futuristic things come true. And then at the same time, it's like, oh, wow, I'm really going to see these things come true, and how scary that could potentially be. But
could put us both out of a job, Wes. Who knows?
Very well. I mean, seeing how some of these programs put together just articles and news articles and things like that. It's pretty amazing. I've been really impressed, but we'll see what kind of impact that has on the industry for sure. Anything else as far as travel or anything that's concerned that we need to make sure that the folks know about? Well,
let's hope for good weather. I know our friends in the Austin area and all over Texas had a really tough week last week.
Yeah,
it was that last week of January, first week of February. So let's hope for good weather. April is usually a very nice time down in Austin. So let's hope for some sunshine for those of us from northern climates who haven't seen too many warm temperatures and sunshine over the winter. Let's hope for some nice days down there and smooth travels for everybody. Hopefully Southwest has all their act back together after their problems at Christmas.
Well, yeah. That's a very good point. So, most important question, the dinner during the Innovator Awards, are we going to see the I can't remember what you guys call it, but it's a Texas cuisine, and that's one of the main things I look forward to every year. So I just want to check in. Is that on tap again for this year?
Well, we know that the best way to create a happy attendee is for happy attendees to have a full stomach. So yes, we will be making sure we have your Tex-Mex specialty whipped up and ready for you, Wes.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and that's the great thing about the JW. I mean, they really do it up. Everything tastes great. A lot of times we go to these conferences and the food is kind of subpar. You're ready to get to a restaurant, but with the stuff that you guys have done with the JW, it's fantastic. So, well, Rich, I appreciate it. Anything else that we need to make the audience aware of?
I don't think so. Just want everybody to know that we really hope that we'll see everyone down April 3rd through the 5th in Austin. It's a great event. We appreciate everyone's involvement and support. And as you alluded to earlier, events work best when everybody gets on board, and we're fortunate to be in that situation. So very excited to see everybody. It should be a really fun and interesting 3 days.
Well, fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you there.
All right. Thanks again, Wes, for the opportunity to talk to you and to your audience.
Absolutely. Again, a big thanks to Rich and all the folks at France Media for supporting our industry and putting on these wonderful events. Not only are they doing the Interface Student Housing event each year, but they are also the producers, I guess is the best way of describing it, for LeaseCon TurnCon, which we had this past December. Had a fantastic time with that here in the Charlotte area. All right, one other announcement before I go. If you have not attended one of our monthly webinars that we call Shop Talk, and SHOP stands for Student Housing Operations, so you can imagine what we're talking about, go make sure that you register to receive the calendar invite. That's the monthly calendar invite that we send out to everybody that is registered so that, they get the link. It's a different link every month. So make sure that you go and register for that. You can do that by visiting shoptalk.info and scroll down to the button that says register for web meeting. And that will ensure that you get that monthly invite. Well, guys, that does it for me. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you in Austin. Take care, everyone.